organization. We call it a men's team. It's basically like a group therapy, but a little better. Kind of keeps me accountable, and we keep other men accountable. And so we had our like sort of big meeting. There are like 4 teams in our like division.
Nice.
And so we all had a big meeting at the Chatsworth Park South, I think.
Okay.
You know
cool.
that park?
Yeah.
Yeah. So which was really nice.
Oh, cool.
So I was just there on Tuesday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Small world.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's where. So where are you from, by the way?
Oh, are we recording?
We're
right
recording.
now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I live in Chatsworth. I've been there for close to 10 years.
Okay.
And
Where are you originally from?
Before living in the LA area, I came from North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. How about yourself?
I'm from here. I'm born and raised.
No way.
From this neighborhood too, which is a little sad, but
From the neighborhood. No, that's cool.
Yeah, from this neighborhood.
This
yeah,
is a cool neighborhood.
Yeah, no, I like it. It was not cool back in the day. It was.
Oh.
There were a lot of gangs and stuff like that. We used to live down, not too far from here, in the same. This is Glassell Park.
Okay.
And we were still in Glassell Park.
Yeah.
Is that one?
Yeah. Let me just.
No problem.
tighten it a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't stay. That's fine.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I gotta. This is my 38th person. I've been doing this
No
for
way.
a year. This November.
Congratulations,
Yeah,
man.
thank you. I'm trying to. I told people I'm gonna start telling everyone about it like after 50. So I'm slowly starting
50,
after
okay.
50, just because I feel like I'm not like I don't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready yet, but now I kind of feel like I am. I don't know. These episodes have been
Yeah,
getting better.
and
So
you almost got your 1-year anniversary.
yeah, so
That's
might as
awesome.
well.
Congratulations,
Yeah, thank
man.
you.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, what were we were down the street, not too far from here, down to where the gangs were, and then we moved up here.
Wow.
And it was a little better, a little safer, but still,
Yeah.
some people come up here, and we've had our cars broken into and
man,
stuff
that
like that.
sucks.
We had actually people broke into here
You're kidding
to
me.
this place, yeah.
Oh my God.
So it happens from time to time. I feel like you're not safe anywhere. So,
Well, yeah.
unless you're in a gated community or something.
Right.
But
Right.
even then. North Carolina.
Yeah.
What were you doing? What were you doing in North Carolina? Just living your life.
Living my life. Yeah, man. That's right.
Yeah. And then, what brought you out here? Was it the?
Well, I thought I was going to be an actor, like so many people.
Yeah.
Although, as you can guess, with magic and acting, there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was the magic that was really the only thing paying the bills with some regularity.
Oh, really?
And also, I had to be a part of the Magic Castle. It was a big reason why I came out.
Oh,
here.
really?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, which you are, and I've seen you perform at the
And
Magic
you've been
Castle.
there.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've been there.
Yeah, we had a blast. That
yeah,
was great.
it was great.
Yeah.
Well, what brought you into magic?
Try to get girls to notice me.
Oh, really?
One day it's gonna work. One day it's gonna work. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah. Aside from that obvious and sad fact, I've always been interested in the mystery of it and
Yeah.
the secrecy of it.
Yeah,
and, I'm into puzzles and riddles and that kind of thing. And obviously there's an overlap. But of
sure.
course, as an actor, so much of magic is storytelling. And,
Yeah.
It's always been fascinating to me.
No, I like your approach to magic because I've been in the Magic Castle. I've seen some magicians.
Yeah.
And your approach is very like you're the star.
Yeah,
I'm not.
exactly.
You're like the magic person.
Right,
Which is
yeah.
which is such a great. And I tell people about it, and everyone
Thanks, man.
everyone tells me they're like, "Oh, what a great idea! Like that's so fun."
Thank you.
And yeah, you kind of like take the ego out, of it.
I try
which
to.
is really nice.
Yeah, I try to. Yeah, it's cool because I like making them the star, and also if anything goes wrong, I get to blame them.
Right. That's great. That's pretty smart.
Yeah, it's
there
a
was
win-win.
there was one thing you did where it was when Ismail was there at the Magic Castle.
He was great.
And he was like drawing. We were like red card or black card, red card, red
Yeah.
card or black card, and then he was like, I don't know a card, and then you put a blank card. We were like, and you were like, how'd you do that?
That was impressive.
That
He
was-
was great. He knocked that out of the park. He was.
That was really
wonderful.
fun.
Yeah.
So who are some of your favorite magicians kind of growing up?
Oh wow. Lots of them. Anybody who's made it is a hero to me.
Oh, really?
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
There is a magician, and if he comes to the Magic Castle about once a year. His name is Jeff McBride, and he's in Vegas, and he is a storyteller. Are you familiar with this guy?
No, but I just realized something. I just got so into the conversation.
Yeah.
I didn't even pull the hour hasn't even begun. This is the hourglass.
Oh, we got to do the hourglass.
Yeah, the Dedlie hour.
So you have
looking at it.
You have a huge hourglass, and is it exactly an hour?
It is an hour and 2 minutes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why the extra 2 minutes, but I timed it like 3 times just to make sure.
And it's an hour.
And it's an hour and 2 minutes. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I wonder if I don't know some sand evaporates. I don't know if sand does, but eventually it'll be an hour. I don't know.
Oh, okay. If you do enough interviews.
If I do enough interviews. Who knows? But I think this is probably the most an hourglass has been used probably.
That's
because
fantastic.
people just have it on their mantle or something. I plan to trick it out too.
It's a gorgeous hourglass.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, no, I'm really excited. You're the first magician here.
Thanks, man.
I love magic.
Yeah.
By the way, I remember going to the magic shop at Disneyland,
which is a very good shop. Actually. Yeah.
And when I was a kid, I used to go to Disneyland all the time. My dad worked for Disney, so it was like this.
Okay.
We got really privileged to go all the time.
That's fantastic.
And I just remember being a little kid and going to the Magic Castle, and I think I bought one or two, or my parents bought me one or two things, and I'd play around with it. But I kind of
at the magic shop.
At the magic shop at Disneyland, yeah. And then I was kind of just fascinated with magic. I never went that route because I had good rhythm, so I played drums, and then did the whole music route. But in another life, I probably would have pursued it. I love it.
That's cool.
I love it. Yeah. Penn and Teller were great. My dad was really into Penn and Teller and so I got to see them in Vegas, which was great. Yeah, they were wonderful.
That's cool.
So I cut you off. You were saying you were talking about one of your favorite.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, Penn and Teller are up there, of course.
Oh, okay. But yeah, there was one guy you were talking about.
Yeah. His name is Jeff McBride, and he's really into storytelling. He uses theater and masks and storytelling and even dialect work, and he's pretty fantastic.
Nice.
And whenever he's out here, I do my best to catch him. His name is Jeff McBride.
Jeff McBride. Okay.
Yeah. Check him out if you ever have time.
Yeah,
he's wonderful.
What's that one comedian who's also a magician, but his whole bit was that he fails at every magic trick? Well, I can't remember his name.
There are
the Amazing Magician or something. The Amazing.
Yeah, there are a few magicians who fit that bill. Although the guy I think you're referring to, his name is the Amazing Jonathan.
The Amazing Jonathan. Yeah.
And he. There are certain tricks where he specifically and intentionally fails, but he's mostly known for just being really a prankster. He pulls pranks on the audience, and he does it in his personal life. He's actually published literature on pranks and how to perpetrate them on your friends. He's a real genius when it comes to that thing, and he's done some things as a performer that have really influenced me. And he spent some time at the castle now. And his name is the Amazing Jonathan.
The Amazing Jonathan,
and he's fantastic. He did something which I never saw live, but I did see on Comedy Central. Back in the day, you could see the Amazing Jonathan more likely on Comedy Central than you would say a magic special.
Right.
Because he's just that funny.
Yeah. That's where I saw him.
Oh, fantastic!
Comedy Central,
oh, sure, yeah. So he knows his stuff when it comes to magic, but then he just turns it upside down and kind of turns it into a prank. So he's doing things kind of on two levels as opposed to one. So he did something on Comedy Central. You may have seen it if you've seen him on Comedy Central. And this really, to me, sums up who this guy is. He was on stage in this pretty big auditorium. And he says to the audience, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to try a psychic experiment. If you'd like to try this with me, please stand up." Well, of course, a lot of people are interested, so a bunch of people stand up. They stand up, and he looks past the spotlights, and he sees some people, and he says, "Sir, I'm not getting a vibe, but thank you for your interest. You can have a seat." "Ma'am, I'm not getting anything, but thank you for your interest. You can have a seat." But he sees someone up in the balcony, And he says, "Ma'am, I'm getting a connection here. Will you try this with me?" And she says, "Sure." And he says, "Okay, everybody else, thank you for your interest. You can have a seat. I'm going to focus on you, ma'am. Ma'am, stay standing. I'm going to ask you some questions, and just let me know if I'm right." And she says, "Okay." And he says, "Okay, you live in Los Angeles?" And she says, "Yes." And he says, "Okay, you've been living in Los Angeles for 8 years?" And she says, "Wow, that was pretty good. I've been in here for about 8.5." And he says, "Okay, I see a glint on your finger. You're married, yeah?" She says, "Yes." And he says, "Okay, you've been married 3 years?" And she says, "Yeah, that was wow,
Yeah.
like 2.5. But we're almost gonna celebrate our 3rd anniversary." He says, "Okay, your husband, he's a tall man?" She says, "Yeah, he's like 6 something." He says, "Okay. Your husband, is he in the entertainment industry?" She says, "Yes, yes, yes." "Your husband, is he a magician?" "Yes." "Am I your husband?" "Yes, yes." And I'm watching this on TV, and I'm drinking something, and I go,
Yeah.
like I just,
Spit take,
that was the best thing.
So great. Yeah.
So in a
huge
way,
prank.
in a way, he gets both things, because there's definitely suspense,
Right.
And you're wondering, how the hell how is he so close? And then when he pulls the rug out from under you and he pulls that prank,
Yeah.
it's almost like you get 2 experiences for the price of 1.
Right.
And he's using the same techniques that all mentalists use, but the whole thing is a practical joke.
Right.
So that sums up who he is. And when I saw that, I thought, oh man, if my work could be half that entertaining.
Yeah.
But in a way, he's still making the audience the star. He's making his plant, his wife, the star.
His wife.
And when he brings someone up on stage, they are the focus, and he's constantly doing things with them and to them.
Yeah.
And he's a real inspiration for me.
No, he's up there.
Yeah.
God, what was I gonna ask you? So when did your journey begin with magic?
Oh, wow.
Like the professional side.
Oh, yeah, the professional side. Well, I got my first book, I believe, from my grandfather when I was about 8 for Christmas, and I was hooked. But when, as you said, professionally, about 20 years ago, I thought, man, I'd like to get paid. So it was through the theater, the community theater. I was working with one of the managers of the theater was throwing up a private party, and she knew that I liked doing magic on the side. And she hired me, and it went really well. And thankfully, many of the people were from the theater. They knew me. They were friends. They were supportive. If I had had a tough crowd, hecklers, drunks, anything like that, it might have stopped me cold. Who knows? So I'm very lucky that first gig went well. Since then, not all gigs go well, as you know.
Yeah.
But it was that first gig that I really am indebted to. Yeah, man.
And then you kind of just went off there. I remember what I was going to ask you, or at least talk about the that like sort of showmanship with being a magician. That what Jonathan does with the whole mentalist thing and like you know that whole act. Like that's also partly what I love, just making the grand thing, because you could just like do a card trick. I remember doing a card trick for like my niece, and then just kind of being whatever. But then when I really brought the theater to it, and like, all right, you got to pick this, and like, oh, hold on, let me think about this. What card is this? Even though I already know what the card she picked, and I'm just like, oh, it's up there, and they're like, their eyes are bright, and they're like, oh, is he gonna pick the right one? That part of theater, I guess, is what's really it.
Yeah,
and you bring a lot to that.
Thanks,
I
man.
feel.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, did you take classes at the Magic Castle?
Well, yeah. The castle is the closest thing to Hogwarts on the planet.
Yeah.
And as you say, you can take classes there. So, there's a library there, one of the most extensive resources on the subject in the world.
Yeah.
A lot of people come to the castle, try to be a member just to go through its doors.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are books in there that date back to like the 1700s.
Wow.
Yeah, there are books from the early 1900s where there are locks on the pages, and only the guy with the key can literally unlock the secrets inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and as you mentioned, you can take classes. There are workshops there on lock picking. I've taken classes on how to cheat at poker and gambling.
Great.
Yeah, I've taken classes there from some of the biggest magicians in the world, including my hero, Jeff McBride. He gives lectures there.
Nice.
Yeah, and every week there's a rotating roster of magicians, of about 7 or 8 magicians. So every week you go, there's a different group. And one of those magicians are usually the lecturer of the week. And they have lectures every week. So you attend this lecture, and the guy that you probably saw the night before on stage, he says, okay, that was my act. Here's how I did it. And you just drool and steal as much as you can. And it is the closest thing to Hogwarts in the world.
No, that's what I've heard. I have a friend of mine, Madeline, who is a musician, lead singer and bassist for a band called Yours Cruelly.
It's a great name.
Which is a great name. They're a great band.
Nice.
And she's a member. And she took a couple classes, but I think she just wanted to be a member,
Interesting.
just to get in. And that's how, I can't remember the first time I got into. Oh no, it was a friend. It was a friend of mine who was getting married, and he brought just some of his close friends as sort of like a bachelor party thing.
That's awesome.
But then the second time I went was with Madeline. Madeline invited us, and we got in. And then that's when she really explained everything to us. Like the first time I went, it was just, let's have some drinks, let's have dinner, let's watch the show, and that's it. And then the second time, she really brought us down, downstairs, showed us what everything meant and all that stuff. Where are you sort of around? So she's a little more. She kind of really believes in magic, the real, energy and spirits and all that sort of stuff. And I used to be a huge skeptic, and I'm slowly going towards that direction. Where are you kind of on that spectrum?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I think about that all the time, and I don't know for sure my own answer. I think I'm a little like you. It sounds like you were hardcore in a certain philosophy, but now you're keeping an open mind.
Yeah.
If that's not okay.
Yeah.
So I'm very similar to that. It reminds me a lot of the tarot, which I believe you're a fan of. I can see this Krampus playing card deck. Yeah. I used to do tarot card reading for entertainment. I never claimed to have any kind of real power. And when I did it, I came to a conclusion for myself that, and when I approached tarot, I would always try to give them some kind of hope, some kind of good news. And since tarot is all about interpretation anyway, it's not like I was doing anything unethical within the realm of tarot.
Right.
There are some tarot readers who will have someone they're reading for, and they will say things like, "You need to leave your husband." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
you it's flat out. Yeah.
Just flat out manipulating them.
Right.
I don't think that anyone has the right or the qualifications to do that.
Sure.
I know marriage counselors and therapists who don't have the right to say that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that what a tarot card reader can do is bring some new perspective, a second set of eyes, and hopefully hope.
Right.
So to answer your question, for me, when I dealt the cards and try to see something positive and give a new perspective, give them something to think about, was it just me trying to actively find those things, or was there really some sort of higher power guiding this interpretation? Well, was there actual magic in the tarot, like your friend might say?
Yeah.
And for me, at the end of the reading, if they saw things in a slightly new way and it gave them hope, does it really matter? And for me, the answer is no. It's the end that is important, not so much the means.
Yeah.
So could there be real magic in the tarot? The other side of that same coin is, I don't know if I'm qualified to say that.
Yeah.
The point is, if it doesn't hurt anybody, but if it gives people hope, does it really matter?
Right.
And for me, it does not. And for people like your friend, it does matter. She genuinely believes in that. But that's cool. That's okay, especially if it does give people hope.
Yeah.
For people like me who are still skeptic but keep an open mind, the end result is still the same.
Right.
So that's how I see it.
No, interesting. Yeah, it's funny because you're behind the scenes. You know?
Exactly.
You see.
Yes.
You know, you see how what's the phrase? You see how the milk is
I see.
Castrated. I can't remember. Whatever
the milk
it's called.
is castrated.
Yeah, I can't remember the term. How the milk is pulled or
right. There's a saying about sausage.
That's the sausage is made. That's
how
what
the sausage is made.
How the sausage is made.
Everybody loves
something
sausage.
with meat.
But they don't want to know how it's made.
Right.
Yeah, and I do know how it's made.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean there's some sausage out there that I don't know how it's made. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. Yeah, there's still some unexplained things that who knows? Science hasn't gotten to it yet, or we'll never know what it means.
Exactly.
So I don't know. That's why, like, especially being a musician, I feel like just music. Kind of, why do certain people like certain things but don't like other things? You know, there's just a connection there.
Yes.
And wavelengths, who knows? But it's different factors to it.
Yeah.
Funny, going back to tarot cards, the weird thing, all right, so me being a skeptic, I had my tarot card reading 1 year, and then maybe 2 years later, I think it was this year, I had it read again by someone completely different, and I had the same cards, the same reading. It was the same thing. It was like trying to tell me something. No, and I'm like, and I've seen tarot cards, they're all different. It could all be so random. It was the same. I think the past card was a little different, but like the present and the future, it was all. I was just
same
like,
cards drawn.
What is going on here?
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was really crazy.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Certainly coincidences exist, but then people will say there are no such thing as coincidences, and that's fascinating that you got the same cards. Yeah. Do you remember what they were?
There was I don't remember the cards, but I remember the meaning. It was that I really need to be truthful in my art. That was both from two different people that
they both said that.
They both said that basically that there are things in your life that are holding you back, and you need to cut those things.
Wow.
And that's only going to help you, move forward.
And did they have any details as to what they thought you should cut?
No, but I know what they were.
Do you, now? I mean, we don't have to get too.
No,
personal,
it's fine.
But...
I think it was certain. Well, the first time it was certain musicians that I was performing with, and they might be listening to this, but whatever.
They're kind of like negative influences.
Yeah, just negative influences in the art, and not really holding us back, but just not. Well, I guess that's the definition. Not really letting us move forward to where we wanted to go.
Then they were holding you back.
So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
that's wild.
Every time they said both times, I was like, I know exactly what it's talking about.
So it wasn't necessarily a thing. It was like more like people.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was people.
Yeah.
But it was me because I'm the leader of these bands, and I just allowed this stuff to go on and keep going when I should have been the one to like cut it. And you know what? We really would have had. I had this other musician who was great guitarist. And it was a female, which is really rare.
That's kind of cool.
She's really good looking, and I don't care, whatever. If you're a great musician, you're a great musician. Sure. But it is nice to have someone like that because people will just go up to you naturally, and watch, and then say like, oh wait, and they're actually good.
Oh, right.
Yes. So at least we had that, and she said you got to kick these other guys out, and I didn't, and now she's out. And eventually,
now she's out.
Now she's out because I have a feeling I didn't do that. And then now with these other two, I finally eventually kicked them out anyways. So I should have just done it then and there.
So you got rid of them all.
Got rid of them, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're starting fresh, and it's just me and Ismail actually in the band.
Okay.
So we're looking for and we're looking for other people right now in the band.
Oh, okay.
So, but we're just playing as a 2-piece right now.
That's cool.
Just for fun, and then until we figure it out. So
nice.
Yeah. So back to you, sir.
Yeah, man.
What about acting? Where have I seen you in? Were you doing more of that early on, or
it was
kind
more
of
an
mixed?
early on kind of thing?
Yeah.
I did score 2 episodes on a show called Dawson's Creek.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and technically, when you make the second episode as the same character, you get to call yourself recurring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was once I was officially recurring that they announced that they were canceling the show.
Oh.
So yeah, it was another reason to come out here.
Yeah.
But otherwise, most of my work has been on theatrical, been on stage.
Gotcha.
And that has heavily influenced me as a magician.
Oh yeah, you did stuff with Zombie Joe's Underground, yeah.
Yeah, you know Zombie Joe's.
So I have, I do. Well, I don't know the guy. Is that the guy's name?
That's his
I've been
name.
to the.
Yeah.
I've been to the theater.
Okay, what have you seen there?
I can't remember.
Okay.
It was so. Long story short, when I went to high school, there was this theater. I was also an actor.
Yeah.
And in high school, I did all the plays.
Nice.
And but these plays weren't your regular high school plays.
Yeah.
These plays were like David Lynch, kind of like just crazy inspired stuff.
That's fantastic.
And it was at a Catholic school, which is even
No
better.
way.
Yeah. This guy that directed these performances, and I won't say his name because I don't know what he's doing now, because he still might be a high school teacher. I don't know.
Okay.
But he used to also direct pornography.
At the Catholic school?
Not at the Catholic school,
Oh,
but
okay.
just on the side, he would direct softcore.
Oh no! What
porn.
I mean is, was he associated with the Catholic school?
Yeah, he was associated. Yeah, he had a different name
So
as
he had-
the director.
He had
He had a
like
separate
double,
life. Yeah, he had a double life.
life.
Yeah,
kinda.
exactly.
Did they ever find out?
No, not at all. No, he did a really good job. Keeping it a secret.
I was hoping he was not doing
Yeah.
the porn at the Catholic school. That's not what I meant.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant. Like, dude, what kind of question is that? No, what I meant was, yeah,
I know what
he
you
was
mean.
still at the Catholic school while he was doing this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
all right.
Yes, indeed. And that's
Wow.
actually how I got into just movie production. I started working in movies. Yeah, because he let me. He's like, "Hey, I do this on the side for the summer. You should just come over and work on these films."
And you did.
As a PA. What's that?
And you did.
And I did. Yeah. I worked on a
any
couple.
work we might be familiar with?
No, although
Okay.
the woman is famous. Her name is Misty Monday. She was
Okay.
famous at the time of like the
Okay.
softcore. Remember the Skinamax?
Oh, of course.
She was on those things. She was on
Interesting.
Lord of the G-String. She was in Spider Babe.
So-
it was
some
those
great-
kinds
great
of
stuff,
movies.
yeah.
Except, of course, his was a little more Lynchian kind of movies.
Interesting.
He made this Dracula movie where, like, the two main characters are usually like a man and a woman, but they were, of course, lesbians. But like the woman gave drugs, or like the woman that was supposed to be the husband gave drugs to like the wife to let her think that she was a man, and that just tricking her that she was really, just a
Okay.
lesbian. Really weird.
And this was in Dracula.
This was in the Dracula movie.
Okay,
yeah.
well, that's in Stoker's subtext.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's what it. Okay.
Yes.
Because I didn't read the book. I just saw the Keanu Reeves movie, and I was like, well, I say Keanu Reeves. That's the only thing I remember
Keanu
from that
Reeves
movie,
movie,
and
yeah.
just how bad his accent was. And I love Keanu Reeves, but just
Yeah.
he was not right for that role. Yeah. Anyways, where was I going with this? I was talking about
Your acting career.
theater. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
theater. So I did that. Oh, so he was. I leave high school. I don't
Yeah.
hear from him, although I love this man. He's a great man.
Okay.
That he was really my mentor growing, in high school,
Okay.
and just really liked everything that he did. And then he was performing at Zombie Joe's Underground.
He was one of the actors.
He was one of the actors.
No kidding.
So then I went to go to
How long
Zombie.
ago was this?
Oh, this is a while ago.
Okay,
Because
okay.
how long has Zombie Joe's been doing it?
Forever.
Yeah, it seems like, because I want to say maybe like 8 years ago, 7 years ago, like a while ago.
I first got associated with him about 11 years ago. So
okay. So
there's
maybe there's a production that,
there's a chance I've seen your friend on
wow,
stage.
yeah.
That's so
All right,
interesting.
we can talk about it after.
Fair
I'll
enough.
tell
All right,
his
fair
name.
enough, fair enough.
I know both of his names, so we'll see.
Both of his names. That's great.
Yeah, and his wife, by the way. His wife was a part of it, so I don't know if that helps or at all. But
Interesting.
his wife was also in the play.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I went. I saw the performance, and it was like
Okay.
this weird. They were all, I think they were like ghouls or something, a part of some play. And then,
That's like 90%
Oh,
of
okay.
what Zombie does.
all
Yeah.
right. So yeah, well, I'm assuming that's what you did then. What were you?
Well, I do a show at the Magic Castle. They give me one night a year,
Yeah.
and the show is called The Night of the Raven.
Yeah.
And
Did that just happen too?
it's coming up.
What's coming up? When is it?
November the 21st. It's on a Thursday.
Thursday. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Let's see if I can come on out.
Oh, well, thanks. It'd be great to see you.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they give me one night a year, and it's called the Night of the Raven. And I collect. It's a variety show where I collect my friends, magicians, musicians, some variety artists, and some actors. And we all do an act in honor of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
And then I end it with a straitjacket escape where I recite an abridged version of The Raven. Yeah, so a friend of mine saw me do this and mentioned this theater called Zombie Joe's Underground Theater. And at that time, this was 11 years ago, geez, they were doing something called Poe Fest, where they would have actors dress up very ghoulish-like and recite works of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
And my friend from the Magic Castle just assumed I was a part of this. I had never heard of it before, so I went down and introduced myself and performed my version of The Raven with the straitjacket. And I've been friends with them and working with them ever since. And I've been in a few of their productions. I'll be in another one in January.
Nice.
But whenever they do a show, I do my best not to miss it. They just finished a show called Urban Death, which is what they're most known for. I wouldn't be surprised if your friend
That
were
was
in it.
That sounds familiar. That was probably
might have been it.
That may have been
your
it,
friend
yeah.
was in.
Urban Death. Okay.
I was in a production of it again about 10 years ago.
Wow.
But there's an excellent chance. Yeah, that might be the show that you saw.
Probably the show.
It's the one thing that Zombie is most known for.
Okay.
And for you listeners who aren't familiar with it, it's a series of vignettes where it's one nightmare after another.
Yeah.
And that is reproduced on stage. But one of the hooks is that there is no dialogue. Nothing is ever mentioned.
Yes.
Sometimes there are screams. Sometimes there are sounds and even sound effects. But there is no dialogue. So, these vignettes can last just, they can be a few minutes or maybe even a few seconds. Sometimes they're just a visual where the actors are literally frozen in time. And it's just up to you to absorb what you're seeing and interpret what's going on. And it's pretty brilliant. And it's taken, I've been in a production of it. It's taken Zombie around the world. It brought him to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival just this last season. And since there is no dialogue, it's literally a universal language. Everybody can relate to being scared. And it's pretty brilliant. And that also has heavily influenced me as a storyteller and an actor and a magician.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Yeah, I had no idea. Man. Yeah, Small World. I had no idea. What other theater performances have you done? It's great that you were part of. This all kind of blends together.
It really does.
It wasn't like you did like some, Shakespeare thing and then like did magic. Like, no, this is all kind of in the same realm.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that. I got to do a production of The Tempest at Zombie Joe's.
Oh, nice.
And
the Tempest works.
Right, because he's a magician.
Yeah.
And so I got to play the magician.
Oh, great.
And it was one of the few productions that I've ever seen that had actual magic in it.
Yeah.
There was another production done not too far from L.A. where it was also stage illusions, where things would disappear and reappear. And Ariel was a card manipulator, and the actor playing Ariel would just do card manipulation while reciting the lines. And that was directed by Teller of Penn and Teller fame.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but that was one of the 2 or 3 that I know of where actual magic was introduced into the performance. And so we got to do that at Zombie Joe's.
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of theater companies in LA and in the Valley, sometimes as an actor, but often as a magician or the opening act, that kind of thing.
Right. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great that you get to even do magic on stage. Like,
it's cool.
Yeah.
I
was like, oh, of course. Let's get Micah over.
Yeah.
And do it. Oh man, that's so fun. I'd love to have you. We should do like a music video. We want to do more music videos and stuff.
That's awesome.
So that'd be great. We'll hire you for something in the future.
I'd love to.
Yeah, definitely another Satan Fest next year.
Satan Fest was a blast.
Yeah, Satan. You're first. We've been trying to get a magician in there for 3 years, and we finally got one.
Thanks,
you to Bryson.
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 If you're listening, thank you for hooking me up with that.
Yeah.
For introducing us. He's great.
And then you guys go back, I understand.
I've seen Bryson. He's a fantastic actor.
Oh, I've never seen him. Yeah.
He's great on stage. An accomplished musician. He's a self-taught guitarist.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a singer. And he and his girlfriend work a lot producing burlesque shows.
Right.
She's a burlesque dancer,
Yeah.
and he's like a multi-talented entertainer.
Yeah.
So the last burlesque show, I was lucky enough to see them in. He was kind of the opening act, and he sang some, I believe it was Frank Sinatra. He was great, and then she performed her act, and they do this a lot. And
I need to go see him. I feel bad. I haven't seen him yet.
They were both in attendance at Satan Fest.
Yeah,
and they're
I mean, I've seen. Yeah, I saw
right.
her, hired her. That's how. Well, her
Yes.
and I go way back. Catalina.
Oh yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, if you ever get a chance to see them do their stuff, they're wonderful.
Catalina and Bryson.
Yeah.
And I forget her. Catalina de la Rosa. That's her burlesque name.
That's right, man.
So check her out.
She's wonderful.
She's great. No, we were little kids. We've known each other since we were little babies.
No
little
kidding.
kids. Yeah.
You didn't go to the same Catholic school.
No.
Did you? Okay.
Oh, wait.
Right.
Actually, yes. Yeah, we
did. You really?
I mean, our families are connected.
Okay.
So, but then she eventually went to the same Catholic elementary school. I went to Catholic school my whole freaking life.
Small world.
Yeah. What about you? Did you grow up any religion or?
Well, my parents were both very religious, very Christian.
Oh, really?
Later on, I started. I still keep an open mind, but I started drifting from that. It wasn't representing what I was believing, but at the same time, I have a lot of respect, especially for the discipline. Having faith takes a lot of discipline, I think.
Yeah.
And I respect people who have that, again, especially if it gives them hope. Who am I to say that they're wrong, especially if it brings about a better world? And I think there can be definite benefits to people who believe. If you really believe in the golden rule, whether or not you believe in the Trinity and all that stuff, does it really make a difference?
Right.
Especially if you are treating other people the way you would want to be treated.
Yeah.
So once again, we've circled back to faith and religion, but so I was raised in a very religious atmosphere, and then you were as well.
Yeah.
I think we can still respect each other without necessarily agreeing.
No, definitely. Although, I'm not a Catholic. I don't consider myself a Catholic anymore. I still follow kind of some of the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Why not?
Because it's just been ingrained in me. And then when people call themselves Christian and then they're doing something that's not Christ-like, then I get offended. Then I'm like, Christ wouldn't do that. Come on, guys.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So.
There's a comedian who has this monologue rant about he's very, very religious guy, very Christian, but in this rant, which is brilliant, I need to look it up again. He talks about how Jesus was Jewish, said nothing about gays. He was a hippie. He loved prostitutes and criminals.
Yeah.
He was very forgiving, but not big on capitalism.
Yeah.
And when he lists all these things, which are backed up by the Bible, you really got to stop and think, oh my God, he's right. Am I really being, as you say, Christ-like,
right,
as opposed to just Christian?
Yeah.
And anybody on any point of the spectrum really needs to think about who this guy was.
Yeah.
Did he really make the blind see? Could he really walk on water? In a way, to me, it's almost incidental compared to the things that he said that were Christ-like, as you brought up. I think that's the most important thing.
No, definitely. And I think some people forget that for whatever their own reasons. But, Wait, so I know we're jumping around, but let's go back to you being 8 years old. I don't know. We kind of talked about that again. Your grandfather gave you the book. How did your grandfather even have this book? Or he just thought you'd be interested in it?
I believe it was a Christmas present.
Okay.
He just thought I would be interested.
Yeah.
And there's something very Freudian about the whole 7th or 8th year of people's lives, where
really?
Freud talked about that was a very formative year.
Yeah.
It's right around 7 or 8 that your personality starts to cement. And
it's probably around the time I started listening to Weird Al, which makes a lot of sense.
There you go.
But
yeah. And I've noticed so many magicians say almost the same thing. It was around 8 years old when I discovered magic. It was
Wow.
about 8 years old when I started paying
yeah.
attention to it. And that was true of me. And I always did it as a hobby. And like I said, about 20 years ago, I thought, man,
Right.
I want to get paid for this.
No, sure.
So,
what was in the book? Do you remember?
It was. I wish I still have it. I've been searching for it online and in my own at my house. I can't find the damn thing. But yeah, it was the first book I ever got, and I was hooked. One of the first books I ever found in a library had a routine that I still do to this day, where an audience member becomes the magician.
Yeah.
And I found it at the last Magic Castle swap meet, and I hadn't seen it in literally decades.
Yeah.
And I had to get it, and I got it, and I opened up to that page, and there it was.
Yeah.
And I'll be I'm writing a second play right now, and in it I am using that routine that I found in that book in a library decades ago.
Yeah.
That I found completely by accident at the Magic Castle. And yeah,
maybe there are no coincidences.
Well, as
right?
you were mentioning, it reminds me a little bit of your tarot card reading.
Yeah.
When you saw the same cards turn up, it is certainly suggestive.
Yeah.
And it does make you pay attention. Yeah.
Wow. So you're writing.
Yeah, I wrote a play that Zombie was kind enough to produce about a year ago, and then he asked me to bring it back in January, so I'll be doing it in January.
So that's just, you said you were acting in it, but you're actually this is something you wrote.
It is something I wrote, and I got to be in it. And then Zombie is bringing it back in January.
Great.
And then I'm writing a second play that I'm hoping, this second play is heavily into the supernatural, and I'm hoping Zombie will help me produce that as well when it's finished.
Very cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So this is, you said the second play? What was the first one?
The first one is called +1, and it's based on a true story about a stand-up comedian who loses everything, and he attempts suicide, and he when he wakes up in the hospital, he's visited by an imaginary friend. Now, in order to not be punished by the law for what he did, he is forced to visit a therapist. And the play takes place when he meets the therapist during their first 1 hour session. So the play takes place in real time. And the therapist is trying to exorcise this guy from the imaginary friend. And the thing that we do that as far as I know, has never been done before, we get a member of the audience to come down from the house and sit in the chair in between the stand-up comedian and the therapist. And that audience member becomes the title character.
Yeah.
And she has no lines. She's the imaginary friend, but she's up on stage with
she's
us.
Just there. Oh,
she's just
very
there.
Cool.
And we, the actors, I play the comedian, and a friend of mine named Diana, who co-wrote it, she played the therapist. We are backstage, and Zombie brings down someone from the audience, and we don't know who the person is until we make our entrance. And it could be a friend of ours, someone who came to see the show, or it could be a complete stranger.
Right.
And we've had both. And it completely changes the dynamic of the show, even though they say nothing.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we're doing it again in January.
Oh,
and,
awesome.
I hope it goes well.
Sounds really fun.
Yeah, it's as far as I know, no one's ever tried anything quite like this.
I got to tell you, something similar. I have heard of something kind of similar, not quite like it. What's that movie with Keanu Reeves and
Dracula?
No, again, bringing up Keanu Reeves twice. No, the one where they're like surfers, but he's like an undercover.
Point Break.
Point Break.
Yes.
There's a Point Break play. Have you heard of it?
Point Break Live.
Point Break Live.
And there's Terminator Live.
Oh, I didn't know about Terminator Live.
Yeah, and they're both great. And now there's Top Gun Live, which I've not yet seen.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've seen it.
No, but I want to go. I've heard of
right.
Point Break Live, and I really wanted to go, and I think we missed it. I play so many shows that like sometimes I have to sacrifice.
I understand.
Yeah.
Coincidence. It's so funny you bring that up. coincidentally, my friend Diana, who co-wrote this play with me, Plus One, we went together to see Terminator Live, and she was one of the volunteers brought up on stage.
Nice.
Yeah. So in these shows, and I'm glad you brought this up, and it's so funny you brought it up. I hadn't really thought about it, but it was certainly one of the influences.
Yeah.
So they would recreate scenes from Point Break, but it was a huge parody, and in the middle of
farce,
complete farce, and there is no fourth wall. The actors are constantly talking to the audience, and sometimes they would stop in the middle of a scene. And they would say, "Hey, we need someone to play one of the other surfers. Sir, will you come up here?" And they drag this guy up, and they slap some costuming on him, and hand him a surfboard. Yeah. And they will literally feed him his lines. Okay, now you say, "Dude." And then the guy will look out to the audience and say, "Dude." And the audience goes out of their minds. Yeah. And they would do this several times with different volunteers.
Right.
And it's brilliant, and it's hysterical. And it's kind of like, again, I'm so glad you brought this up. It's my approach to magic, where you bring an audience member up and try to make them the star of the show.
Right.
That's literally what we're doing in Plus One, where they become the title character, and they are up on stage with us the entire hour. They are part of this session that we are reenacting. So it's very similar to what those guys did. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, man.
No, that was the only thing it reminded, because I love that idea with Point Break, because I saw videos.
Oh, it's brilliant.
And it's just so silly.
Yeah.
No, but yours, this sounds like different in that, they become the title character, but you two are now the energy of whoever that person is really kind of becomes its own different thing. And
it does.
And so it makes it fresh too.
It does. Yeah. It really dictates, as you say, the energy, the tone of the show.
Right.
We've had, even though they have no lines, I as the stand-up comedian react to the Plus One person constantly, because she's my imaginary friend. Meanwhile, the therapist doesn't see them. Mm-hmm. So if the person playing Plus One is very playful, it can give me a lot to bounce off of. Meanwhile, the therapist, the actress, has to make sure she doesn't react to any of it. Yeah. But if the Plus One is very quiet and very withdrawn, it tends to cause me, the stand-up comedian, to be withdrawn, because I'm reflecting what they do.
Right.
The imaginary friend is kind of my source of hope, and how that person reacts or plays the part, so to speak, really changes the dynamic of my own performance.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I'd love to see it.
I hope you do. I hope you come down.
Is it still in North Hollywood?
It's still in North Hollywood, still in Lancashire.
Okay.
When I first met him at Poe Fest in 2008, that's where they were, and they're still there today.
Perfect.
It's on Lancashire across from that crazy 5-point intersection.
No, I know exactly. Yeah, that's such a weird intersection.
It really is. And if you go to any show at Zombie Joe's, it's going to be provocative and unforgettable. Yeah. But my show will be in January.
Cool. No, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, and then I know you have a email group. I usually save this stuff for the end, but before I forget,
that's cool.
But you have like an email?
I've got an email list. I've got a couple of websites. Micah the Magician is where I post most of my information for my adult shows. But I've got an email list where I send out a newsletter. Yeah. And Micah the Magician at yahoo.com if you're interested.
Right.
Thank you for that plug.
No, of course. Although I think you can also follow him on Instagram and Facebook. That's where I see your stuff. So.
Sure, man.
Yeah.
I post about once a day about my shows like Night of the Raven and Plus One.
And then you were at Beetle House too.
I'm at Beetle House. They let me be there about once a week. Yeah. And it's a real. You came to one of my performances. That was so cool of you. Thank you for doing that.
No, it was great. We've been to Beetle House before, and it was funny because we didn't really we didn't like it at first.
Sure.
And then because it was at a different place because they're the pop-ups.
Sure.
I don't know, there's something about the place and the energy there, or the people. And then we were like, let's give it another shot. It's at a different place, new location. New location. And Micah's performing. Like, let's go see, and then let's go see Micah.
Thanks,
I brought Satan herself.
Satan was great. Yeah,
Satan came out. So we go, and it was a totally different vibe. completely different
it really
there.
is. It really is.
Yeah, and then it's great that there's a little stage, right out there, back there.
Thanks for being there.
We finally got to eat. That was our thing. The first time we went, we didn't eat. Second time we ate, and the food was really good.
The food is weirdly good.
Yeah,
it's surprisingly good.
No, I know. Yeah, I didn't. It was weird because we were like, oh, it's probably going to be whatever. It's a little pricey, but I was like, okay, I think that's why, because it's pricey. It's like, oh, you're getting what you're paying for.
Sure,
so
I agree.
So
I agree.
I was happy with that.
Good.
And then and then we got to see you perform.
It was so good to see you out there, man. Thank you for being there.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, so I'm gonna reveal Satan's real name is Kat.
She's a wonderful person.
Who is a great guest on the show, by the way.
Yeah.
Whenever people talk to me about this podcast, I've had her on 3 times, and they're always like, they're always like, oh my god, you need to bring Kat more.
I'd listen to her. She's wonderful.
She's really silly, funny, but we're kind of obsessed with you juggling and blindfolded. Where does that come from? Where does that come from?
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. So it's a routine I call the multitasker, and a lot of magicians have routines similar to this, where a shuffle deck is the routine that I've seen goes something like this. The magician hands a deck to a volunteer, and the volunteer shuffles the deck, and then about half is given to a second volunteer. And the magician has one of the volunteers on the left, one of the volunteers on the right. The volunteer on the left has about half the deck. The volunteer on the right has the other half. And the magician tries to figure out who has which card. And it's a cool routine. My version has 4 volunteers, which, as you know, is much more interesting to me. If you're going to make an audience member the star, why not make 4 of them as opposed to, say, 2 or whatever?
Yeah.
So I like that element very much. But this was something that I discovered while acting. I was doing Shakespeare, and I had a monologue. This was one of the comedies where The Merry Wives of Windsor, where a whole bunch of different characters are going to intersect without knowing it. They've all have their different plans, and they're all going to meet each other, but they're going to meet each other coincidentally in similar locations. And my character is the only guy who happens to know all this information. So I'm trying to explain to my friend where all these people will be later that night. And the director, a brilliant man named Ira David Wood, he told me, okay, so every time you mention a location, you physically go there. So this location will be downstage right, but that location will be upstage left. So I'm literally running around the stage, and visually it was super cool.
Yeah.
If you see an actor just reciting this, it just sounds like some sort, you're sitting in class. Yeah. But now I've got to remember, oh, wait, when I mention this location, I got to be over here, but that location is over here. So it reminded me that while you can recite things, you can add another level to it. So I have this routine where I now have 4 people. They've split the shuffle deck into 4 different volunteers. And it reminded me, well, can't I do something else while this is happening? Like while I'm reciting the Shakespearean monologue, while I'm trying to figure out who's got what card. Well, I happen to be a juggler. And one of the things that I do is juggling blindfolded. So I combine the two. And that's what you saw.
Right.
And it's really hard.
It looks really hard. And it's really funny because, I think you're like, you were like, Blake, do you have this card? And I kind of hesitated. You're like, oh, it's fine. I could, I'm only just juggling blindfolded. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, 9. Do you want some water, by the way?
Oh, I'd love
let me. You know what?
Dude,
Why don't you tell us a story?
Okay.
Because I got to run. I usually have water, but I...
Oh, that's nice of you, man. No, that was just funny.
Talk to the audience.
Oh, that's so funny. Anyway, Blake, thank you for mentioning that to me. Yeah, and so I've got 4 different people from a shuffle deck. We've separated the cards into 4 more or less equal groups, and they're looking at their cards, and they each have, well, if it's divided equally, it comes around to 13 cards each. And sometimes they hesitate. Sometimes they literally don't know. I'll take cold. Thank you, brother. Cheers. And sometimes they hesitate, and so I always joke about that because I'm like, can you speed this up a little bit? I'm kind of busy. I'm kind of in the middle of something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or I'll say the opposite. Take your time. I'm not doing nothing.
Yeah, I think that's what you said. No, take your time. Take your time. I'm not doing anything. No, it looks really hard. It's super impressive.
Thanks, man.
And no, and then we see you on Instagram, and then because Kat will be like, "What, like, did you see Micah like doing juggling and blindfolded?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like he's like, "What's up with that?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's cool." I was like, man. It's something to watch.
Thanks for being there. That was a lot of fun.
That was fun.
That was cool.
No, I'd love to be there January. That play sounds interesting.
It is very risky, and like you say, there have been things done before it that are similar. For me, we've taken it to a different level, and as far as I know, there's never been a time where an audience member played the title character and was on stage from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And it's risky, but and I don't know who will be our plus ones when we do it in January,
right.
And I won't know until I step up on stage.
Of course.
But I hope you can be there. It'd be great to see you.
It'd be great.
Maybe Satan could be our plus one. She'd be perfect.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so weird.
Wouldn't it be great to have Satan as your imaginary friend?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I smell a sitcom. Someone's got to do that.
That does sound.
That sounds cool. Actually,
it does sound cool. Yeah, I feel like that. Oh, that was they had something like that with Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Okay.
You ever watch that?
That's a great show.
Yeah, great. They did like pulled out of a hat like a sitcom.
Yeah, sure.
And they did a Schoolgirl and Satan. And I think Ryan Stiles played Satan, and they did like this opening. Wayne Brady's like singing the song of the opening, and yeah, and like the little the schoolgirl turns into Satan. That's what it was.
Schoolgirl turns
into Satan. Okay. I think that's what it was. But I don't know.
What a
really
great
silly.
Show.
Yeah,
Those
what a
guys
great
are
show.
So crazy talented. Yeah. And I've done improv as well. I come from an improv background. I used to teach basic improv. Out here, they take it very seriously. There's the whole long form musical stuff.
Right.
I never went that deep. But going back to what you had asked me about, when I was doing Shakespeare from where I'm from, there's a wonderful director named Carmen Maria, and I was doing a production of Much Ado About Nothing, and I got to play Benedict. Benedict has a lot of monologues where he's talking out loud and he's rationalizing. At first, he's an avowed bachelor, but then he falls in love with Beatrice, and so now he's rationalizing how it's okay to flip it in his mind. And Carmen told me something that changed how I approach everything. She said to me, don't think out loud. You're saying all this to the audience. And a lot of actors do this in Shakespeare. Like Iago is famous for talking directly to the audience and letting the audience in on his evil plans when none of the other characters are aware of this. And she said to me, when you talk to the audience, your audience is your best friend. And you will say things to the audience that you would never say to anyone else, even including Beatrice. And that shocked me that this story now became this weird therapy session. And that was another influence of Plus One, that we are counting on the audience to be our therapist. We are trusting the audience with all of our secrets. And to me, that's the most interesting kind of storytelling. I don't know why I got off on that tangent.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, that was another influence for me.
Well, I think we were talking about, let's go back to the juggling. That's all I can think about right now.
Fair enough.
Well, when did you learn how to juggle?
Well,
was that early on?
Yeah, it coincided with magic. A lot of magicians juggle and vice versa.
Okay.
I'm one of the few who incorporates both in their act. But it makes sense to use both. There's a lot of overlap. Juggling is basically the skillful manipulation of objects, often creating an optical illusion. And if you think about it, that's almost the definition of magic anyway. Yeah. So why not do both? So my routine that I called the Multitasker, that you were kind enough to be in, that you were kind enough to suffer through some of my jokes at your expense, but I hope you took it in the...
Oh, of course. I loved it. I loved it.
Intended.
Yeah.
That was my answer. Why not combine the two? So that's what I do.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right, great.
But yeah, I've had the opportunity to juggle during Shakespeare as well. In that very play, Merry Wives of Windsor, where I had this monologue where I had to multitask.
Yeah.
I also juggled in that production too.
God, I can't. I can't multitask for shit. Yeah, it's a shame. Or maybe that's just what I'm telling myself. Who knows? But I've tried. No, that's not true. I can sing and play guitar. So what am I saying?
Dude,
I guess that is
the ultimate multitasking. Anybody who can do that, man, you've got my undying respect. I don't know how you do it, but you're right. That is multitasking. Your brain's got to do two different things simultaneously.
Yeah. So is drumming too, because your right hand's doing something to the left, and then the foot, and it can get.
Dude, I don't know how you do it.
Really funny enough, I had this desk job when I was 16 years old. And I would just and it was kind of boring. I would just schedule stuff for this department, and I had nothing else to do. Like they're like, if you have nothing else to do, clean, and I clean, and there's nothing. So I just sit at my desk and just try and do that, over and over until I could figure it out. Because that's all really drumming is, just kind of doing. Kind of different variations, and then I translated onto my sister's drums, and I'm like, oh shoot, nice. I can drum now. So that's that was my practice at 16.
So are you self-taught?
Yeah, drumming. Yeah, self-taught.
No kidding.
But it's nice because my father was a drummer.
Nice.
I have an uncle who was a drummer in like an LA band that was kind of big at the time in the early 2000s.
That's cool.
We just come from a drumming family. My sister wanted to play the drums. I just wanted to play guitar because I thought it was cool. Sure. And then I started playing on her drums. I was like, I think I have I just had a natural thing for it because it just runs in the family. Yeah.
That is so cool. A lot of magicians are musicians and vice versa. Lots of overlap there too.
Last time I was at the Magic Castle, actually, the two other people that I think you knew at the table when we were with Ismail, they were in some awesome outfits.
Okay.
But we ended up talking to them at the end of the night.
Nice.
And they were they're like, oh yeah, we're musicians too. And then we were talking about what they performed, where they performed, and we just started talking about music all of a sudden,
cool, man.
And I know that they were also magicians or aspiring magicians.
Lots of overlap.
Yeah, lots of overlap.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's funny because I went to a lucha libre performance last night. Wrestling. Last night, it's a performance.
It's a performance.
That's kind of what I was bringing up. We were realizing how similar it is to music and gigs and performing in front of an audience and just the act of it. And they were all so good. Not only were they talented with the flips and moves that they're doing, but they're hilarious.
Oh yeah,
so funny.
The showmanship is so important,
so fun, and so we try and take all these things. It's all theater at the end of the day.
Definitely, man, definitely.
You just kind of pick your craft and go with it.
Yeah.
Well, and these remaining. Sands that are running out. We still got a little bit of time.
We got a little bit, I guess.
But anything you want to bring up?
Thanks. Well, I guess I can plug away.
Yeah, go for it.
Might as well. So I just closed Dark Harbor literally a few hours ago.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. And speaking of multitasking, a friend of mine, you might appreciate this, and I posted this on social media. A friend of mine, his stage name is Buster, but his real name is Conrad. He is a guitarist and banjo player for Dark Harbor. And he asked to...
Was he the guy that was playing guitar next to you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
He came up with this idea. He said, I'd like to accompany you while you perform The Raven. Mm-hmm. So we did that on stage for the first time.
Oh.
What I recorded and put on social media was our rehearsal backstage. Yeah. And then... not long after that, we did it on stage for the first time, and it was a blast. And speaking of multitasking, he played the Raven. So while he was strumming the guitar, he was listening to me, but then also he had to say "Nevermore." Yeah. He actually had lines.
Yeah.
And during rehearsal, he just said it, but on stage we shared one mic. So it was like we were doing this musical duet where I would recite Edgar Allan Poe. And then when it was time for his line, he would lean into the mic and say "Nevermore" in character. And we both had to do it in character. So I'm Irish at Dark Harbor, and he's this Southern gentleman.
Yeah.
And so this guy was playing this Irish folk tune on the guitar while reciting Edgar Allan Poe with me. Yeah. And talk about multitasking.
So
I don't know how you guys do it. So he was perfect. So anyway, I just closed Dark Harbor, and the next thing up for me, so I get to do Beetle House about once a week, usually on Sundays. But any night you go, you're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
And then my Night of the Raven is Thursday night, November the 21st, and that's almost sold out. So I'm grateful for that. Diana, who co-wrote Plus One with me, she'll be in it, doing Annabelle Lee.
Okay.
And speaking of multitasking, she'll do it exactly half in Spanish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she'll be reciting Edgar Allan Poe in Spanish, which is super cool. And then a new person will be playing the therapist in Plus One in January, and her name is Michelle Dannon, who's also done a ton of stuff at Zombie Joe's. So we'll have a new therapist, so there'll be something new for that as well. But then we'll have a new Plus One, a new title character every night.
Great.
So that's the public stuff that I can plug. And thank you for letting me do that.
No problem. Yeah, we still have a little bit of time. I was going to ask you, is there something like so around this time, I usually interview musicians, and they always play us out, play a little song. That's why I have this right here, actually, for them to play. Do you have any like incantations or any sort of like, I don't know, speech that you could give to close us out?
Oh, wow. Okay. What comes to mind is there was a magician. I believe it was Howard Thurston who did it, one of Harry Houdini's greatest competitors. I believe it was Howard Thurston who did this. He, before he would step on stage, he would peek out into the audience and look at them. And before he would step on stage, he would say, "I love you." And I love that. It reminds us how important the audience is. They've often paid good money. Not all audiences are great. They're not always going to be with you.
Yeah.
But I think it's a wonderful exercise. You asked me to take us out, and this is something that I think can help take us in. I try to remember to do that. It's a little ritual that I do before every show. Again, they're not always great.
Sure.
But we have to remind ourselves why they are there. These strangers are putting their trust in you, and often their money, often both. And we have to do our best to respect them to the best of our ability. If we say things like, Blake, take your time, I'm not busy, we can get away with it as long as everybody's laughing and they understand the intention.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we have to do our best to love them as best as we can, and hopefully they'll love us. So that's a ritual that was brought to my mind.
And so you bring that before each...
I try to. It doesn't always work.
Of course.
But I think it's a noble beginning to any theatrical endeavor.
That's great. No, it reminds me of this one lucha last night who he was pushing people. There was the four corners, right?
Sure.
Or four parts of the ring.
Yeah.
And he like pushed one guy into one side of the ring, and like people had to get out of the way.
Oh, wow.
And then he was about to pull one guy like in our side, and we all got up to get out of the way. He's like, "Nah, you guys don't deserve it," and then throws him back into the ring. And we're like, "What the hell?" That was so thrown. Like he had the audience like totally. Everyone moved out of the way. He's just like, "No, fuck you guys," and then threw the other wrestler back into the ring. And I don't know. I love that.
That's
so
great.
Awesome, Micah.
Dude,
thank you so much.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, do you have anything to plug? Is there any?
Nah.
Okay.
I'll put. It's fine.
Okay.
Thank you, man.
Hey, dude, it was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.